Howdy, this is Karen from Karen Dawn Designs, and today I'm going to show you how to work a yarn over at the beginning of a row. I'm going to start by showing you how to do a yarn over when your next stitch is a knit stitch. So normally when you do a knit stitch, you have your yarn in the back of the needle and you put your knitting needle in and you knit. Instead, to create a yarn over first, you do exactly the opposite. You have your yarn in the front of your needle. And then you stick your needle in to knit. So notice my yarn, my working yarn, is here in the front of the needle, and I've inserted my needle to knit, and then I knit the stitch. And I have created the yarn over and the knit stitch. And notice this yarn over is very secure. It is not going to fall off your needle. So that way when you come back to work it on the next row, you won't have to worry about losing it. I have now knit to the end of that row, and this time I want to do a yarn over and then have the next stitch be a purl stitch. So you would typically do a purl stitch by making your yarn in the front and then inserting your needle to purl. So just like the other time, we're going to do the opposite. Put your yarn in the back and then stick your needle in to purl. So going purlwise. And now my yarn's in the back so that when I purl it, I am going to create an extra loop as well as my purl stitch. This one is going to create kind of a tight loop. So what I usually do is I give the yarn a little extra tug here just to make sure those loops aren't too tight. And I've purled that stitch. So now I have my yarn over and my purl stitch. And just like when you did the knit stitch, your yarn over is nice and secure and is not going to fall off the needle. Now I've purled to the end of this row and I have the last two stitches. This one right here is the yarn over that I created on the previous row. So I'm just going to purl this stitch, and then there's that yarn over, and I just treat it like a normal stitch and purl it. And now we're back to the beginning of the row, and I'm going to show you the yarn over at the beginning of the row again before a knit stitch. So you want to have your yarn in the front of your needle. Insert your needle to knit. Again, your yarn is in the front. Knit the stitch. And take it off the needle, and you've got the yarn over and the knit stitch. And then if I quickly knit to the end of the row, I will show you that yarn over from the previous row, which had been done before a purl stitch. So here we go. This one is going to be a little strange because they are a little tighter. So you might need to make sure that you split these two so that you can see there are two separate stitches. So here's one. And then this was the stitch that was the yarn over, so we're just going to knit that. So while I'm here, let me turn and show you the yarn over before the purl stitch one more time. So since we're going to purl next, we want the yarn to be in the back to do the yarn over. Insert our needle to purl, wrap the yarn for the purl stitch, and then here, to make sure it's not too tight, give that little extra tug. And now I've created the purl stitch in my yarn over, and I can continue purling to the end of the row. So here's my finished swatch. You can see over here these little loops that the yarn over has created at the beginning of the row. Over here, this is the side where the yarn over was created for before the purl. You can see these are not quite as pronounced as the other ones, and would probably need to be teased out a bit during blocking. This is because, like I showed you, when you're doing it before the purl, it has a tendency to be a much tighter stitch. So again, just giving that tug as you're doing the yarn over and the purl will help to create the yarn over loops a little bit more pronounced. But again, it won't be quite as pronounced as before the knit stitch. So do be aware of that if you are doing this on both sides of the work, because it does create a bit of a different look on each side. But that is how you yarn over at the beginning of a row. Thanks for watching, and happy knitting.